maritime forces carry out a successful project with live ammunition similar to the conditions of confronting a hostile and sudden maritime attack. Security forces continue to chase terrorists, killing some of their leaders in the countryside of Aleppo, Idlib, Homs, Daraa and Deir Ezzor. The terrorists Mustafa Sharrouf and Subhi Aswad admit that they were trained by the Turkish forces in the refugee camp and smuggled armed terrorists and weapons from Turkey into Syria. And finally, the markets of Damascus are very active and commodities are available for customers. Good afternoon, welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. President Bashar al-Assad issued decree number 241 of 2012 concerning the creation of the second faculty of mechanical engineering in the University of Aleppo in Idlib and the second faculty of medicine in Al-Ba'ath University in Hama. According to the training plan issued by the General Command of the Army and Armed Forces for the current year, of carrying military maneuvers over several days with the participation of the various land, navy and air force units in a bid to test the preparedness of our valiant armed forces, simulating a scenario of repelling a sudden attack from the sea. In this context, the Navy started carrying out a project using live ammunition as well as missiles, helicopters and rocket boats. The Navy has successfully achieved its target, repelling the hypothetical attack and hitting the given targets with high precision. The project was attended by Major General Dawood Rajha, the Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Armed Forces, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense, in addition to high-ranking officers. General Rajha praised the preparations for the exercise and the exceptional performance by the naval forces, which showed a high level of combat training and its ability to defend Syria's shores against any possible aggression. Security forces in Homs clashed with a terrorist group that attacked citizens and security forces in the town of al-Assad in the Homs countryside. A source in the governorate said the clash led to several casualties among the terrorists, the destruction of 2 of their vehicles supplied with a machine gun. There were 2 casualties among the security forces. In the Deir Ezzor countryside, an armed terrorist gang that attacked public and private property in the town of Mahassan sustained heavy casualties. 2 of the terrorist vehicles were destroyed. The security forces also clashed with another terrorist gang in Al-Mayadeen, inflicting casualties among them. In Khan Sheikhoun in Idlib countryside, security forces stormed a hideout for terrorist groups and confiscated various kinds of weapons. Security forces found a bombed car and a large number of explosive devices and restored several cars that were stolen by terrorists. In Idlib, security forces prevented an armed terrorist group from infiltrating into the Syrian territories coming from Turkey across Bab al-Hawa border crossing point in Hadam region. An official source said that security forces clashed with armed groups' members, killing and wounding a number of them, while the rest managed to flee away back into the Turkish territories. In Kafr Nubel town in the countryside of Idlib, the authorities clashed an armed terrorist group that had been attacking citizens and committing acts of looting, robbery, abduction and blocking roads. A source in the city said that a clash broke out between the authorities and the terrorists and resulted in the killing, injury and arrest of a number of terrorists, in addition to seizing their weapons. The terrorists Mustafa Sharrouf and Subhi Aswad admit that they were trained by the Turkish forces in the refugee camps and smuggled armed terrorists and weapons from Turkey into Syria.
اسمي مصطفى شروف. من سكان إدلب. عمري 22 سنة.
I'm from Idlib. I'm 22 years old. I work with my cousins Ala and Samir Bakura in smuggling weapons and terrorists into Syria and smuggling cattle from Syria to Turkey. Ala met a person from our area named Muhammad al-Tabbaq who asked him to smuggle in weapons for money. 2 days later, we went to Turkey and we brought back 12 machine guns. The next day, we brought him 18 boxes of ammunition. Later, he asked us to bring him more weapons. We brought him 11 machine guns with the ammunition. Later, he asked us to bring automatic weapons. However, the Turkish police arrested us and they took us to a refugee camp. The Turkish officers trained us and our group. We consisted of 50 people. After 3 weeks, we resumed the smuggling. Muhammad asked us for more weapons. We brought him anti-aircraft missiles, 5 machine guns, 10 automatic guns, 30 bombs, and military uniforms. Before our arrest, we brought 11 automatic guns and 18 machine guns.
I was born in 1981. I work in a private vehicle. I began to work with Hussam al-Shahoud in smuggling fuel oil and cattle to Turkey across the river Orontes. Later, al-Shahoud worked with another person to smuggle weapons into Syria. We took the weapons from the Turkish side of the other border to the house of al-Shahoud. Abdul Qadir Hajjar and his brothers distributed the weapons to 2 terrorist groups. I went to Turkey where I met my cousin who lives in Izmir. He took me secretly to a refugee camp. A woman took me into the camp and warned me that I could be arrested by the Turkish security forces. Her 2 sons also warned me of being arrested and taken to a refugee camp. They said they regretted coming to Turkey. They asserted that the Turkish security forces harassed the people in the camp and prevented them from returning to Syria. We went to another camp near a hospital and a military camp where armed groups from Syria were being trained.
The Turkish writer Majlon Oglo wrote in the Turkish paper Jumhoriet that it was ironic that Erdogan's government accused other states of lack of democracy, while it suppressed university students and press reporters with campaigns of collective detention. The arrested people spent months and years in jail. The writer pointed out that many academic figures in France signed a statement published by Le Monde accusing Erdogan's government of being a savage, dictatorial and arrogant regime, preventing the publication of research and books on political sciences, considering this a criminal act. Mrs. Oglo called upon the Erdogan government to concentrate on what was happening inside Turkey instead of giving press reporters moral lessons about the Syrian question. While vote counting continues in Libya to choose the members of the National Conference that will elect the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, Libyan national and patriotic figures have warned against the Qatari role encouraging the formation of large numbers of political parties to implement a given agenda. The figures said that the interference of Qatar in the Libyan internal affairs is rejected and that the Libyans will not give in to the diktats and schemes of the Gulf states to divide and break Libya. They warned Federation advocates of the American, British and French plan to divide the country into 3 states. With this, we conclude our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can visit our website, syriaonline.sy. Long live Syria, and God bless you all. Now over to our economic news with Vanya after break.